There we go. One of the other awesome things about it is that there's only 2 power-ups in the entire game. One adds time, and one turns you into the Super Ultra Mega Comet. And when you turn into the Super Ultra Mega Comet, the game becomes even more fun to play, almost, because gravity and attaching the stars becomes it basically becomes insanely difficult to determine where you're going to end up. So you're trying to constantly figure out where you're going to swing and where you're going to end up, but when you get this power-up, it actually kind of makes it harder. The second game I'm going to talk about is a game called Go Underground. It's also known as Journey to the Center of the Earth by some folks. How many people have played it? Probably none, many, few. Right. We're friends now. So again, I'm going to bounce out and show a quick video of this as well. The video that I'm going to show is some random awesome dude doing a speed run. The entire game probably can be finished in like 8 minutes or so.
That's very Spelunky-ish.
Yeah, it is. Well, it has that kind of Spelunky vibe, but it's also... is there a volume button that I can press here? Okay. So it's created by a company called .zo Games. It's actually kind of old. It's been out for like 2 or 3 years now. And the reason why I love it is it's the power of a single screen game. We have these crazy HD things on our laptops and on our iPads and on our televisions, but every game pretty much ever has a camera and you move around, and in this case it's using the fact that you have 1280 by 760 resolution to kind of fit almost everything in the entire screen. So you're that little white guy there. You're bouncing around, you'll have 2 options. You can jump, and you can throw bombs, and you're trying to collect a set number of treasures. And basically you're wandering around the screen trying to figure out, how do I find the treasures, how do I find the secrets that will make the treasures appear. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't. There's really, dying has no effect, you just kind of start again somewhat. So it's super, super simple, again. Whole game can be played in about 15 minutes, and you never have to worry about not seeing what's coming up. And I think that's something that's super, super interesting and very few games play with, is the idea of you always want to foreshadow, you always want to allude to what's coming next. It's that whole filmic analogy, and we've all heard it a million times, but because of the single screen, or almost single screen, you always know where you're going, you always know what's next, you always can see what's coming up or where you should be. It's more about exploring and finding out how to actually get there. So I think there's a real interesting thing going on there. I also think that there's all this kind of talk of indie games and pixel art, and lots of people are kind of a little bit pissy about how a lot of indie games use pixels. But this is a game that actually uses them for a functional reason rather than just the style. Now the style is amazing, and I think it's one of the best looking pixel art games out there, but it's also functional because everything is so small and so tiny that if it's not perfectly crisp and perfectly readable, you're going to lose your character on the screen. And so that whole play on using teeny tiny little art and teeny tiny little characters to make it fit in HD kind of almost requires pixels. So I think that's really awesome too.
It's actually the exact opposite of Small Worlds. If you played Small Worlds, this is the happy, fun time version of it. It's super interactive, and Small Worlds is really middle.
Yeah, and Small Worlds is pixels the size of grapefruits.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is super awesome about this game is that it, to me, proves that duration does not directly correlate with satisfaction. The game is super short and it never changes, so you play through it once and you play the game. That's it, it's done. But it is so satisfying to find those treasure chests, throw the bombs, get a little bit deeper. There's no, even the challenges are very, very light. The only challenge is to explore and find treasure chests. But that kind of satisfaction, I think, is a lot greater than the satisfaction you find in a 15-hour game. So.
Great sound, too.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful game altogether. And I'm just going to show you a couple other games that, because this Go Underground kind of sets up a sub-micro niche genre of platformers, which is kind of like the single screen, super tiny. So there's a game called Flood the Chamber by Matt Scora. I almost don't recommend playing it because it's so fucking hard, but it's awesome and fun. And Tiny Castle by Nitrome. Nitrome's a fantastic Flash game dev. They make some of my favorite Flash games of all time. Tiny Castle's super fun. So those are my games.
Hey everybody, I'm Dylan.
Hi, Dylan.
Now I have to like confess some secrets or something. Not quite right. Oh, you just hit an arrow?
Yep.
All right. Well, I really love generated games, replayable games, and so I want to tell you guys about a few of those. This first one is called Shoot First, and it's free, so you should definitely just go play it right away. But it's a little bit hard to find, because if you Google for Shoot First, you're going to just get pages about Han and Greedo.
Last night I was trying to search for Monaco news at PAX on Google, and I searched for Monaco PAX, and unfortunately Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie have a child named Pax, and they recently visited Monaco. So I'm screwed, totally screwed.
So anyways, Google for like Shoot First Indie, or I think Shoot First Game would work anyway, so you'll find it, and it's free, so grab it. This is a roguelike game that plays out like an action shooter, so it's sort of a roguelike Contra, and it even has co-op. So I'd recommend hooking up a gamepad and running through, finding your treasures, leveling up. I don't think it ever ends. I haven't found an end yet. So it's kind of all about traversing through these randomly generated dungeons as far as you can get and seeing what kinds of cool things you find, and more importantly, what kinds of cool things happen. I was going to say...
It's like an action roguelike.
Exactly, yeah. I think the tagline is the co-op action roguelike, so that pretty much tells you everything.
By the way, did you see on Take Source that someone's making a serial killer roguelike?
Yeah.
It was proven fake. He said it was fake like 2 days later.
Sorry.
I just crushed everyone's dreams.
How do you make that?
I did have a hot tip for you on Shoot First. So there's princesses that you rescue. You can even find rings. If you have the ring, I think you get more bonus for rescuing her, like she was your true love. But here's the thing.
But you can find multiple rings and multiple princesses with true loves.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I had trouble for the longest time because I was this princess killer. I'd always grab them and then continue through the dungeon, and they'd always die, and then it's just depressing. And they drop a ring and they tell you like, "I hope you find my sister." And it's just it's terrible. But here's the important thing. The princess wants to leave the dungeon. She wants to go to the upstairs where you started. She doesn't want to go in further with you. But it's totally obvious, but it took me forever. So do that. Next one is Desktop Dungeons. This is kind of the same idea. How many of you have played this? See, not too many.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Monaco would be done by now if my Desktop Dungeons weren't out.
So this game, it has been pretty popular, but this is a roguelike. I've heard people call it a roguelike mixed with solitaire, and it's not anywhere near as boring as solitaire. Or no, roguelike mixed with Minesweeper is what people said. But the idea is it generates this dungeon, and you carefully, it's a single screen, it doesn't scroll at all. You need to explore this dungeon carefully, because as you explore it, that's what heals you and replenishes your mana. So exploration is a resource. And the whole goal is to try to defeat the boss who's somewhere in this dungeon. And to do that, you need to get to like level 9, possibly 8 if you're really clever. So you have to be very careful about who you attack and when you pick up items and which god you choose to serve, and all kinds of things. The art is fantastic. The art was done by Derek Yu, who did Spelunky, which is another game in this genre, which I wasn't going to talk about too much because it's already got a lot of exposure, but that plays Spelunky. Yeah, what else was I going to say about Desktop Dungeons? It just makes you feel really clever. Like, I've played probably 15 hours, and I still keep finding new things that make me feel like I really discovered something awesome. I was actually going to tell you a few of those to illustrate the depth, but I don't think I will, because it kind of ruins it.
Consulting afterwards, maybe? After the
Yeah, maybe so.
Just for the diehards.
Oh, here's a good one, actually. I was playing a couple nights ago. I was playing in bed on my laptop. And it's not a good game to go to sleep with, because it's really hard, it's really taxing. You have to play the numbers really carefully and figure out exactly how you can just squeeze by to defeat the guy who's level 4 if you're level 2, because then you get a big level up. So I kept waking back up and looking back. What was I doing? Oh yes. So I'd look around, scan all the bosses. He's level 5. Okay. I'd do some attacks. And I finally got to the boss. I attacked him a few times. I had enough health potions to beat him. This game is deterministic, by the way. So when you hover an enemy, it tells you should you hit it or not. Like on this boss right here, the guy with the cool beard, it says death on hit, so you shouldn't click it. You can die. But if you happen to wake up and you're playing on a touchpad and your fingers are kind of twitchy while you sleep,